I first of all want to thank in advance all the wonderful crews from our city that are going to have a long couple of days ahead of us. And I want to thank all of you for being here as we prepare the community for Tropical Storm Idalia. The Emergency Operations Center was activated at 8 a.m. this morning and will remain activated throughout the duration of this storm. Governor DeSantis, as you may know, has already declared a state of emergency for Duval and other surrounding counties. And as mayor, I am declaring a local state of emergency as well to activate the necessary resources to make sure that we have protection for our community. Here is the latest on the storm from the National Weather Service. We anticipate Idalia to strengthen and intensify as it makes its way over the extremely warm waters of the Gulf, making landfall somewhere in the Big Bend area as a potential Category 3 major hurricane. Our message: prepare for hurricane strength conditions here in Northeast Florida. There is the potential for substantial flooding in vulnerable neighborhoods along the St. Johns River and along the Atlantic coast. We anticipate the risk of high rip currents as well throughout the week, so this is absolutely no time to be in the water over the next couple of days. It will be very dangerous. We also forecast strong, sustained tropical force winds, tropical storm force winds, and hurricane force gusts with a 3-foot up to a 3-foot storm surge. 3 to 6 inches of rain is expected as the storm passes through our region. And all of Jacksonville's city buildings will close for non-essential personnel on Tuesday and Wednesday. All city employees should check with their supervisors to check on their status. But for now, all non-essential personnel Tuesday and Wednesday are out of there. And Duval County Public Schools will close all district schools for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's in prep because we got to get shelters ready and we have to make sure that we're prepared ahead of time. At the same time, we will have 6 shelters that will open tomorrow at noon to protect folks who need a safe place to go. So if people think they need to go to a shelter, if you are concerned at all about where you are, then you need to go tomorrow starting at noon. At some point, as this storm intensifies over the process, there's going to be a tougher time getting emergency personnel to you, and at some point they will not be able to get to you potentially, so please, if you feel like you need to go, then go. The shelter locations are at Chimney Lakes Elementary School, La Villa Middle School, Ocean Way Elementary, Landmark Middle School, Atlantic Coast High School, and at the Legends Center. Chimney Lakes and Landmark are going to be pet-friendly shelters. Atlantic Coast High School is a special needs location. All this information is available right now through the Jax Ready app and at jaxready.com, so please continue to check those platforms and stay updated throughout the storm. I now would like to turn it over to Sheriff Waters.
So good afternoon. We are prepared. Our patrol force is prepared. As a matter of fact, our director is informing our chiefs as of now to make sure their vehicles are gassed, make sure they have a go bag and ready to work to make sure our city is safe. We are going to stay in place if the need arises. We won't go to our particular districts. We'll stay where we are and just in case there's a need to close our bridges. When the bridges, we are working with FHP, we will watch very closely. We usually utilize a 40-mile-per-hour sustained wind gauge to be able to do that. But of course, when you have a major storm coming or a storm of this magnitude, we are going to monitor. If there's gusts that reach a certain level, we may end up having to close those bridges. We ask for patience. We ask for you to allow us to do that, and we're going to make sure we are very careful. And we try to notify everyone as soon and as quickly as possible. With that, we are prepared to also assist our beaches and our partner agencies with whatever they need, but we are prepared to go. And then I'll introduce Chief Powers.
Good afternoon. JFRD has been preparing for the last few days. We are going to have our urban search and rescue team that's going to be staged at the Prime Osborne Convention Center ready to respond should some major emergency happen here locally. We're going to have 5 emergency road access teams that will be staged strategically throughout the county. One of those will be at the far south end of the county, one will be on the east side of the county, one kind of in the centrally located part of the county, one to the west and one to the north. In addition to those teams, we'll also have 2 swiftwater rescue teams. One will be stationed on the south side of the county, one will be stationed in the Riverside area as well. Our personnel have been notified that all leave has been canceled, and they're subject to recall as conditions warrant. So with that, we're ready to go and support all the necessary needs of the city going forward. With that, I'm going to bring up Director Ayub.
Good afternoon. Director Andre, Emergency Preparedness Division. So I'll be brief, but there's 4 things that you can do now to prepare. We've also been talking about this for several months since hurricane season started. Everything that I'm about to say is on our Jax Ready app. Very proud of that app, so I'll mention that quite a bit. So the first thing, emergency kits. I won't go through that whole list, but please, if you haven't already, get your emergency kit, get it prepared, get on our app, and it'll tell you all that list, the water, medicine, prescription, all that stuff. Make a plan. Family members, spouses, children, if they're in school, work, have that discussion. Sit down with your family and say, listen, okay, if we have to have an evacuation order, where are we meeting at? Write down phone numbers just in case cell towers go down, that you know you got a central point you're going to meet at, how you're going to evacuate out of Duval County, and just have that plan so you got a solid plan. Know your evacuation zone. The cool thing about our Jax Ready app, not just where your residence, but say if you're at work or at the grocery store, it will tell you immediately by GPS what your evacuation zone is. So you don't have to do any work. Just download the free app on iPhone and Android, and it will tell you your evacuation zone. Stay informed. You got to use your trusted sources. When I talk about trusted, our Jax Ready, your local news meteorologist, and NWS Jacksonville. We don't want you, there's so many different opinions right now on the storm. We just don't want you to have the wrong information, not evacuate if we're asking you to evacuate. Also, prepare your home. Take time to clean debris out of your storm drains, gutters, secure lightweight, loose outdoor items. The time to prepare is now. Please don't wait until Tuesday, Wednesday to start doing all the things I talked about. So with that, I'll introduce Jay Stowe with JEA. Thank you.
Thank you. We are, like the other organizations, we are prepared and have been preparing for this storm throughout the year with vegetation management and tree trimming. As the storm comes in, we will experience power outages. We have crews that are on standby and ready to respond to that. We have contractors on standby, and we have crews coming in from mutual aid crews from Texas and Missouri to help support us as this storm moves through. As the winds get above 40 miles per hour, we will pull our crews in and not do any work until that passes, but we have everybody on standby and ready to respond as we need to. And I think Public Works.
Good afternoon. Department of Public Works maintains a list of nearly 100 locations that are sensitive to inclement weather, and crews are out there today and tomorrow putting eyes on these sites and addressing any issues to make sure that we're ready for the storm. Regarding trash, recycling, and yard waste, we'll be moving Wednesday pickup to Saturday, and we don't expect any other days to be affected. We have 2 crews from our debris management contract on standby on each side of the river to support the ERAT teams as necessary. And next, we'll hear from Duval County Public Schools.
Thank you and good afternoon. Because of the need to open shelters and prepare our schools for the coming storm, we will be closing our schools and all activities for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. This includes all after-school programs, athletics, and any other extracurricular activities. After the storm passes, we will assess the damage and conditions of our schools on Thursday and then announce at that time any decision about Friday. Remember that we have to take into account the condition of our campuses, the availability of electricity, the condition of our food supply, and the ability to safely transport students as we consider reopening. Again, we will announce that decision on Thursday. Please keep your eyes on our website, duvalschools.org, for any future updates. In closing, I want us all to recognize that our students have been through a lot recently. And now with the impending storm, we want to remind families that their students have access to teletherapy through Hazel Health, and the link to Hazel Health is on our website. If students are showing any kind of anxiety, fear, or any type of emotional response, you can connect with them through a licensed mental health professional through Hazel, at home or at school. Thank you. Back to Mayor Deegan.
Okay, questions?
Mayor, typically Lake City is the staging area for utilities, and it appears the storm could be in that vicinity. What's the backup plan?
I'm going to let Jay answer that.
Yeah, we've got crews that are coming in from out of state, and at this point, we don't think we're going to need to use the Lake City location. We have local staging areas that we will stand up as we need to.
Mayor, just a quick question on this. This storm came up as a surprise, I think, to a lot of people, and you're already talking shelters, schools closing, businesses closing, and all that. What are we expecting from this? I know it's hard to tell. Is this going to be like what we've seen in the past? Are you anticipating flooding in those low zone areas? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, look, with respect, I don't think this is a surprise. I think our folks at the National Weather Service and our local meteorologists have been watching this area for a while. And if you take a look at the warm waters in the Gulf, you can see why there's concern for possible rapid intensification there. So we just have to be on guard and very careful. I mean, this is the world we live in with when our water temperatures are so warm. We've got very, very warm temperatures in the Gulf. So right now, it looks like the storm tracked in the last tracking slightly to the left. Doesn't mean it's going to keep doing that. Doesn't mean to the west. Doesn't mean it's going to keep going that way. Sometimes they jog back and forth. So we really just have to plan for a worst case scenario, and that way we're prepared no matter what happens.
Are you concerned about evacuations?
We're going to talk about that after we get finished with this meeting. That's a discussion we still need to have.
Mayor, the Main Street Bridge is slated for closures or repairs at least this week. Will that be rescheduled for another time?
Anybody know the answer to that question? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll get the answer for you.
Mayor, the question gets asked every time there's a hurricane. No sandbags in Duval County. All the other counties do it. Again, just remind people why Duval doesn't.
Well, look, if you look at the scientific information around sandbags, if you really look at how they work or don't work, they just don't provide much help, frankly, and they can be a biohazard. It's not. Look, counties can do what they want to do, and if people feel like they want to go get sandbags, they can do it. But there's really just no scientific reason to point to say that they are particularly effective. I think they have more of an effect of making people feel like they're doing something. And at the end of the day, they may end up trapping more water into your house than they end up, saving you from getting into your house. So that's why Duval County has the stance that it has.
Mayor, on the evacuations, I mean, for people who are trying to decide, should I say, go, all that kind of stuff, is there a definite time where y'all are going to have a decision so that they can plan accordingly? Because there's not much time before the storm hits at this point.
We're going to be making a decision in the next little while, as soon as hours.
We'll be
after
later
we get out
today,
of here.
okay,
Yeah.
later today with the next few hours.
It'll be shortly after we get out of this meeting that we'll be able to make that decision.
Question on Public Works. On trash pickup, you said no trash pickup. Is that correct? Is that for the private vendors as well?
Wednesday pickup will be moved to Saturday.
So Wednesday, Saturday, and what about the private haulers?
I'm not aware of any changes to that.
Every hurricane, people get in the water at Jack's Beach, they go surfing, all that happens. Is there anything that can be done to mitigate that?
Well, look, we can ask people over and over again not to get in. Somebody always seems to want to, but we are going to have really bad rip current conditions, primarily because of Franklin that's gone by us, right? So that's really a big problem for us. So they're going to be bad rip currents, and we can only do what we can do in that regard, but we're asking people to please not get into the water over the next several days. It's going to be dangerous, and we don't want to put other people's lives at risk trying to save those people.
We usually hear from the National Weather Service. Are they going to be part of the briefings in terms of talking about kind of?
Yeah, got questions for me, he's right here.
Yeah, I mean, then usually the National Weather Service is able to kind of drill down into kind of what people could expect compared to, say, other storms. It seems like it's intensifying. Is this, going for Jim's question, is this a harder or easy storm to read at this point in terms of what the level of damage is going to be here? And, we always worry about storm surge because it's coming from the other side of Florida. Does that mean that's not a concern this time? Kind of give a feel for what y'all are looking at when y'all are watching this.
Okay, Mayor actually hit a lot of those points already about the rapid intensification we see. There's a lot of fuel. That warm water is fueling this. We're following our guidance as close as we can. We work with the National Hurricane Center very closely. on what to expect. And right now, even though there's that little westward shift away from, it's not changing our expectations of seeing strong tropical storm force winds and gusts up to hurricane force, especially along the St. Johns River and at the beaches. As far as the surge component, the last two storms, we had Ian and Nicole, we had what we call a nor'easter ahead of that. It charged the water into the basin, into the St. Johns River Basin, prior to the impacts from those systems. So it was felt even a little bit more. We're still trying to calibrate our surge right now, but we can expect at least up to 3 feet at this point. There could be locally higher amounts along the river where the wind pushes the water in the river in that direction.
Does that mean flooding along the river then? I'm somebody that doesn't quite.
There are trouble spots. We have trouble spots along the river. There's some low spots. There's going to be flooding right now with 1 to 3 feet. I don't anticipate that that's going to get into residential areas in the street. Is what we anticipate at this moment.
Is this an Irma type event? We're not even close.
Irma had a lot of factors other than just a storm. There was a saturated ground. There was a preceding event of rainfall ahead of it. So there wasn't much for the water to do except for to rise. So we had that, and we had all the water being pushed up from the upper part of the basin, St. Johns River Basin, and that created that historic type flooding we saw here in downtown for Irma. Right now, we're not anticipating Irma level impacts. For surge,
I've got a question for Mayor Deegan. We've been talking about the hot water temperatures and their predictions that storms are going to get stronger. Is the city prepared to deal with something like this every single year?
Well, look, whether we're prepared for it or not, it's coming, right? We know the water's getting warmer. We know that the water is rising, and we are preparing for that as much as we possibly can. Our chief resilience officer has been hard at work on creating some new models that will help us to anticipate, but also to respond to those things as we continue to try to come up with ways to mitigate that. We're in the point now where we're taking a look at the entirety of the county and finding where our weak points are, where we're likely to see the biggest impacts from that. But absolutely, it is something that we're going to be dealing with, and we see that, we know that. But we have the best people in the world. I will tell you that in terms of storms, the National Hurricane Center has the best forecasters in the world. So we're doing the best we can on that front. And in terms of responding to the warm water temperatures, that's something that we are frankly going to be a model for the nation in terms of what we are doing right now. So you'll be learning more about that as we go forward.
For JTA, will there be bus service, or do you know?
Our plans is to continue running bus service as the road conditions permit. So we'll continue running service, and then at the point that we find impassable streets, we'll carve our service back. The St. Johns River Ferry will be suspended until further notice starting tomorrow morning. So no service on the St. Johns River Ferry, and we are taking the necessary precautions to have additional staff on board so we can do any evacuations as called upon.
No, last year, GTA moved some buses towards Kenlight Drive, and those people had flooding. Has that been discussed for this year as well?
Right, so we set up our staff to be on demand as the city's needs occur. And so we are moving some of our fleet, though, to Cecil Field to protect that fleet from any potential flooding. But we just stand by supporting the EOC for any calls for service.